Let's look at some features of QSDA Pro. This is a QSDA Pro app list. Lists the applications available from your Qlik server. Your Qlik servers can be Qlik On-Prem, Qlik Cloud, or Qlik Sense Desktop. Here's an app I'm interested in, DA Sample app. It's in my work stream. If I open it up and press the gear icon, I can now launch an analysis. The QSDA analysis first goes out and collects all the metadata, the tables, fields, expressions, dimensions, charts, bookmarks, etc. from your application. And if collect calc time is on, it will also exercise each chart and collect the calculation duration for use in performance analysis. After all that data is collected, we do a deep analysis, which is then expressed and in the analysis view. The heart of the advice system in QSDA Pro is flags. Flags are assigned to one of four categories: quality, resources, practice, and performance. There's a lot of flags here because this is a sample app. Your app will likely have fewer. If you want to see all the different things we check for that can raise flags, you can see that under Help, Flag List. Let's take a look at some of these flags. So I'm going to click on the quality card, which will open up the detail. And let's look at expression syntax error. And I'll look at this one right here. So I've got an error in expression, some kind of syntax error. If I open this up in detail, I can see the expression itself, the error message, and importantly, a hyperlink to the sheet where that object exists. So I'm going to click that. That'll open it up in Qlik Sense Client. Here's my problem up here. I'll edit the sheet. Open up this expression in the editor. Okay, yeah, I'm missing some brackets. The expression's okay now. All right, I fixed that. So I'll close this off. Back here in QSDA Pro, I'll mark this as resolved. That's an optional step. When you mark something as resolved, you sort of take it off your list. It won't appear again unless you turn on the resolved filter. In addition to resolving and unresolving flags, you can also hide and unhide them. The difference is resolved indicates that you fixed it. Hiding is something you may not want to see at this time. Let's go back to the summary, look at another flag. So over here in practice, we have expression matching measure. And let's look at this last one here. We have an expression matching the master measure margin. And what this is telling us is that we have coded the expression just natively as text, and there is a master measure that we could use instead, which is considered to be a better practice. Here is what we've coded in the visualization, in this measure, in this KPI. And over here is the contents of the master measure. Now notice that QSDA is smart enough to match these up on the logical value of the expression. What does the expression actually do? So it doesn't just look at the text. So in this case, we could open up that KPI and use the Qlik Sense client to remove the expression and replace it with the master measure named margin %. However, for some flags types, if we feel we can fix it and you have enabled this in admin, we will turn on this a flag recommendation button. And if you click that, this will bring up a dialog that first checks to make sure that the change can still be made because the app could have changed between the time you did the analysis and now. And if it looks like it's successful, we offer this apply button. Press apply and the change will be made for you. So you don't have to go to the client and do it manually. In this case, the flag is automatically marked as resolved. And you can go on to the next one. Let's take a look at another analysis. In this case, the app is MSQ Performance Sample app, and this is an analysis I collected earlier. And I'm going to go ahead and press the load button to bring it back into memory and analyze it. So notice here that the calc time, I've collected some calculation times for the charts, and I have a distribution chart here, and I can see that I have some outliers. I have one that takes 38 seconds and one that takes about 17.69 seconds. I'm going to go to the visualizations page, and all of these resource pages here, fields, variables, visualizations, etc., are sortable and filterable. So I'm going to sort by the calc time column and get the bigger ones to the top. Let's first take a look at this one, this table called sales by category. And if I open it up, I can see what are the dimensions and expressions in this. You know, why is this taking almost 18 seconds to calculate? Well, it could be that I have this big expression here. That's likely it. But to get some more accurate focus, I can press the little suitcase here. This is the chart deconstruct feature. And we'll calculate each measure in turn individually. So by doing that, I can see that no, the one that takes a long time in this chart is this one here. And I also get a hint that with a flag that it's a data island expression. So I can go out and remediate that, improve the performance of the chart, come back and measure it with QSDA Pro. Let's look at another one here, this pivot tail that took 38 seconds to execute. In this case, I'll open up the chart, the viz deconstruction. We've got a lot of dimensions here, and the dimensions have quite a few values. These are my sales, and then I have lines within sales of product and size. And this is pretty simple expressions, but they still take a long time to calculate because they return an awful lot of data, in this case 7.3 million rows. So there's probably isn't anything I can do to improve the expression, but I might question the data. First of all, is a 7.3 million row pivot table useful? Something I'd have to look at the business. Maybe I'd put a calculation condition on do fewer data. Or from here, I might experiment with saying, well, what if I take off fewer dimensions? I take off the line item dimensions and recalculate it. And now it comes back relatively quickly, just over a second. Now I've rolled up to the 459,000, the order numbers, not the line items. And I need to understand whether that's going to be acceptable in the business. But I have some insight and the opportunity to experiment with some options here. Take a look at another app. This is Bike Shop Sales that I previously loaded up. It's occupying 596 megabytes of memory. It's its memory footprint. I'm going to go ahead and look at the analysis here. I could see in the resource card, the data model, again, takes about 596 megabytes, but 382 megabytes, more than half of that is unused data, represented by 77 unused fields. So I could get that memory back by dropping those unused fields. I also have a couple of other opportunities for optimizing the memory footprint, auto-numbering keys, and dropping tables that are unused except for their keys. And I'm going to go ahead and generate a drop script statement. I can see what those fields are by going to the Fields tab, and I can filter on, is used, false. But I can also just do this from the summary page or any other page with the Tools item. And I'm going to add some script to my Bike Shop Sales Qlik app. So I'm going to open that up in another tab. And I'm going to get the data load editor ready. And with a blank tab. And back here in QSDA Pro, I'm going to go into Tools, Script Generator. And the first tab that comes up is auto numbering keys. These are the recommended fields to auto number. I'm going to accept all the recommendations. And this will generate a nice auto number statement for me. I can click copy and then paste that into my Qlik Sense script. Next, I'll drop fields that are unused. So these are the unused fields. And I can accept all the recommendations, or I can go through and pick just the ones I want. If you think you're going to kind of pick and choose, you want to save some because you believe you might use them, it's a good idea to sort by bytes because you want to drop the largest ones first. That's where you're going to get the biggest benefit. So if you're going to be looking at savings, you can start going through this way and skipping around. I'm going to go ahead and just take all the recommendations, copy, paste, and then lastly, drop tables. And we'll go ahead and reload. And I'll close the Qlik app and go back here into QSDA Pro. And in the app list, I can immediately see that the memory has dropped to 213 megabytes. And might go ahead and just launch another analysis here. Just to make sure I didn't break anything or introduce any errors. And now I have 0 megabytes unused and no other recommendations, and I haven't introduced any errors. Now, a frequent task we get as Qlik developers is investigating and reporting on where is a field used in our application and how is it used. So let's say we have a field called territory description. We're thinking about making a change in the database, or the business is discussing its meaning, and we want to know how is this used in our app. So I can go to the Fields tab, type a partial name, dir, now I have a filter, and then I can just drill in a little more by right-clicking the one I want, filter to selected. Now all my resource views up here, 1 out of 10 tables, 2 out of 5 sheets, 3 out of 34 visualizations, they're all filtered to only those resources that are connected to or use territory description. So for example, it's used as 3 dimensions, and it's used as 1 expression. And so what I may want to do from here is sort of pass this information to somebody else about how is this used, or where is it used, what has to change if we go ahead with the plan change. So a convenient way to do that is to come to this filtered visualization page, or any filtered resource page, and use the export and export it to Excel. And that'll export this filtered content here up into the downloads directory, and I can then attach it to a ticket or email it to somebody to answer that question. So that exports the filtered grid. Other ways you can share results outside of QSDA are up here under Tools, Export Analysis to CSV. This will generate a zip file that contains CSV files representing all the metadata that was collected in separate files, one for fields, one for sheets, etc. This is unfiltered, so the filters don't apply here. It's all the collected data. Another option is under the Tools menu is this report, which will generate a HTML report, an overview of the app, the flags, and some of the columns from the metadata. Then you can download this HTML file and provide it to somebody, email it, put it in SharePoint, store it as an artifact, a part of your promotion process. But this is disconnected from QSDA, and so you can use it offline. Another option is in the admin screens under collector list, you can export the entire collection. So this will create a zip file that is in QSDA internal format that can be used by another QSDA user in the import collection to bring it into their QSDA environment. This is really useful for working with the Modio support team. We want to provide documentation or a sample of what problem you might be having. It's important to notice in the collection, there is no data values, right? It's only metadata. So we have the field names, the table names, but not the field values. Another feature I find very useful and very important in QSDA is filtering, particularly variable filtering. So let's say I have a variable called EXPCD index that I'm thinking about changing, and I want to understand, well, what is the impact going to be in my app? Where am I using this? What do I have to validate after I make this change or this correction? So on the variable page here, I can see there's my variable. I can see it's used 18 times. It references these field names. I'm going to go ahead and right-click and select Filter to Selected. Now, EXPCD index is filtered, but also all these other variables appear as well. So we can see they appear because they reference EXPCD index. And what we're showing is everything that's connected to EXPCD index. So in this case, EXPCD index is a variable that's nested within these. And in some cases, maybe we don't see EXPCD index, but we see a reference to another variable that uses EXPCD index. and so on. So we're going to get the complete nesting regardless of the depth. Okay, the other pages are now going to show the direct references to EXP CD index, but this way we can get a sense of everything that is connected to. I'm going to return to our first app and show that we also have here on the summary page these design KPIs that show how you use master measures throughout your application. And we also produce a histogram of the length of the expressions, because we found that the long expressions can be kind of a bad smell. So here we have an expression that's over 2,500 characters long. It's kind of worth looking at. So I'm going to go here to the expressions page, and I don't see the length of the as a sortable field here, but if I go up to view, I'll see the under choose columns, optional columns. So I'm going to turn on expanded definition link, add that in. Now that I have it here, I can sort on that column and get that one to the top that's really long. And I'm curious, what does this do? So if I hover over the expression, I can see this little eye icon, or more will also work down below. And if I click that, that opens it up into this expression decoder in QSDA. That helps you break down this expression and understand it. So what does it do? So down here in the tree view, we can see it's a function with 2 nested branches and 1 aggregation. It's an if function. So we know if takes 3 parameters. So if we click on that piece in the tree, we can see, okay, there's the if test. And then if it's true, we do the then, we're setting a color. And then the else is another if test. And we can then break that down and see, okay, that's a condition. And then if that's true, we just set 2 colors. So we can quickly get an understanding of what this does. We have the option up here to do some highlighting by selecting a field that's referenced and showing everywhere we do it. So this can help you understand those very complex expressions. QSDA Pro is the powerful tool that every Qlik developer needs.